Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
The greatest 10th Amendment decision ever rendered. Alex Jones, Candace Owens. Early 2028, J.D. Vance and maybe Gavin Newsom. Pelosi in the news. President Trump altering the country, the Democrats complain. And there's a Henry County, Georgia Sheriff's Office that loves Dr. Shaquille O'Neal. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. I'm Sam Bushman with hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use, and it all starts now. The good sheriff, Richard Mack, with me, with the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, CSPAOA.org. Become a member today. Welcome to the broadcast, sir.
Thank you very much, Sam. It's great to be with you this beautiful Tuesday, Arizona morning.
Amen to that. We're freezing up here in Utah. We know for you it's beautiful all winter long. For you, it's kind of spring during winter, isn't it, sir?
It's pretty close to that, yes.
Indeed. But you know what? Minnesota, the Northeast, if you will, getting absolutely slam-basted. They say several feet of snow going to be happening. It's just out of control, and they're worried about it up there, Sheriff.
Well, they probably don't have enough snow removal equipment and employees because their coffers have been stolen by all the fraud you have to say just the corrupt politicians that have allowed the fraud to take place. It's kind of like allowing all the terrorists and cartels into our country. They've allowed all of this to happen and facilitated some of it. So why Minnesota is surviving all of this, or how they are surviving all this, is really, maybe they're not going to, and they shouldn't. This is probably just the tip of the iceberg of what's been going across the country.
Billions and billions of dollars, and every time we turn around, the scandal grows deeper.
But according to Walls, it's Trump's fault. It's Trump's fault.
Of course it is. Absolutely. Yeah. Everything is Donald's fault. And if it's not Donald's, it's Sheriff Mack or Sam Bushman's fault. That's for sure. Yeah. But I'll say this. What if we could have the Hispanics build the wall, and they could, stay if they're willing to work on the wall. The other thing we could do is we could create a shovel brigade, and you could shovel snow. And if you worked enough work hours off, maybe we could, forgive you and let you join America. What do you think? Just create a workforce.
Hey, let's do it.
It's voluntary, though. You can either take the $3,000 and exit stage left and leave the country, or you can go ahead and work on the brigades to take care of America first, baby. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right. Interestingly enough, you have the greatest 10th Amendment decision ever rendered in the country in your hand, the Supreme Court case summary, which everybody can get a copy of at CSPAOA.org. Just look for the Supreme Court case summary, CSPAOA.org. You got a tidbit to remind us about this, right?
Yes, I do, Sam. This is how powerful this case is, and every American should have this copy in their home, in their pockets, in their car, and pass these around to local officials. Get this. This is Justice Scalia talking. Preservation of the states as independent and autonomous political entities is arguably less undermined by requiring them to make policy in certain fields than, as Judge Sneed aptly described it over 2 decades ago, by reducing them, talking about the states, by reducing them to puppets of a ventriloquist Congress. And that's Brown versus EPA back in, what was the date? It doesn't show the date, but Brown versus EPA was back in the 70s. It is an essential attribute of the states' retained sovereignty that they remain independent and autonomous within their proper sphere of authority. Wow, Sam, that has everything to do with what we're going to be doing in Washington State on the 9th and 10th of January in just 10 or 11 days from now. And this thing about the state of Washington understanding their proper sphere of authority. And we're going to make sure they understand that.
Amen to that. One thing I like from that quote from Antonin Scalia, he talks about the ventriloquist voice of Congress.
Yeah.
Explain what that means, Sheriff, because what it really means is the voice is all over the place. Congress isn't providing consistent direction based on separations of powers, based on vertical and horizontal checks and balances, based on state sovereignty. They kind of speak as if they can say and do anything they want, anywhere, anytime, all the time, voice, conflicting with themselves oftentimes, right?
Yeah, and that the United States Congress has their hand up the back of the dummies, and the states are all the dummies for going along with it, primarily because they're paid to by federal tax dollars that they
By
get
federal fake money, by the way.
right, and that they get from the states in the first place. So yeah, this is what's crazy, because when he calls the states that they're not puppets of a ventriloquist Congress, he's actually stating what has been for a very long time, that they are indeed, that they just take orders and follow the instructions of the ventriloquist Congress, who controls the strings of the puppets, who are actually speaking for the states and ordering the states to do and say exactly what they tell them to.
And what's interesting about this is they pretend they have authority over the states, which they don't. The
No.
Declaration of Independence, which we'll be celebrating the 250th year of here soon in the next couple of days, it all starts. 250, baby. Let's go. But they act like they have control over the states, which they, from a sovereignty and a check and balance point of view, they do not. They also act like they don't have any authority over the president, that he can just do whatever he wants to, and they can sit idly by. If he has a win, they can take a lap and say, yeah, we were part of it. If he loses on any reason, they can distance themselves. Yeah. They're simply derelict in their duty. They don't understand their delegation of authority, and they engage in pretend legislation all the time.
Well, you touched on the Declaration of Independence and the power they tried to maintain for the states in that document. And he actually says, Jefferson says, towards the very end of the Declaration, he said, these colonies have a right and ought to be free and independent states. That's the whole push that they were doing in the Declaration of Independence, to make sure that these states are independent and separate, but united in geographically and in a few other positions.
Yeah, in delegated purpose.
But yes, exactly. And so we have forgotten our way, and I think a lot of it falls on the propaganda that they started pushing, that one, we're a democracy, and two, that the federal government's in charge. They are not in charge of the states. That's why they're supposed to remain, just as I said, autonomous and answerable to the people.
And they forgot one thing: the creation can never be greater than the creator. And the states, the sovereign states, or the colonies at that time, if you will, created the general government. And so the creation cannot be greater than the creator. Yes, we can delegate certain authorities because we work together as the united. We work together as a team. And we want our borders to be simple borders, not complex international kind of borders. So in that sense, we have a general delegation to the general government saying you have authority to do this, this, and this. You know, piracy on the high seas, which Donald Trump is doing, and I commend him for it, except for he needs congressional approval, which he hasn't obtained. But Mike Johnson and company are derelict and on recess all the time. So what do you expect the poor president to do in that case? I would call Congress back to session and say, you guys better get to work immediately, or we're going to basically use every influence we have to make sure somebody else is in your place who will do that. Anyway, I digress. But my point is, we need the checks and balances working efficiently in America, and we really need to look at delegated authority and who has what authority. And the general government does not have authority over the states, except for in a very few, very, very narrow areas. And that's why this is the greatest 10th Amendment decision ever rendered. To get your copy, CSPAOA.org. It's inexpensive. You can get a couple of these pamphlets. It's like the little teeny constitutions, but it's a court case highlighting these fundamental truths that you need to learn about. Of course, we'll be talking about that at our event coming up in Washington State. It'll be right outside Tacoma. It'll be the 9th and 10th of January, 2026. So in a few days, there'll be a press conference Friday midday. There'll be a rally Friday night. and a closed training session Saturday for all public officials to learn about the proper role of limited constitutional government and what they need to do to preserve the sacred cause of liberty. In the state of Washington, we've got a sad state of affairs because they want to destroy the office of sheriff, which, believe it or not, preceded the United States, preceded the Declaration of Independence. The sheriffs were the local elected executive branch, ladies and gentlemen. Your county commissions, or whatever they're called in your state, they're all kind of slightly different. They're the legislative branch. The sheriff is the executive branch, and the DA, or the district attorney, is the judicial branch. So there you have it, just a breakdown. When we come back, we'll talk about gold and silver. We'll also talk about he does not have any faith. Who are we talking about? Find out in seconds. You're watching Liberty Roundtable Live. They tell you gold and silver, not too important. But whenever the economy struggles, everybody flees, at least all the rich investors and all the big money people. They all flee to the constitutional currency called gold and silver. The Bible calls it honest weights and measures, if you will. Gold and silver, they say, pull back after sharp gains. I don't really see a massive pullback personally. It's kind of relative. If it goes up and then it's down, but it's way up overall, they want you to believe it's down because they don't want you to understand the truth about gold. Gold right now is at like $4,550. Silver right now is around $71.80, almost $72. I don't see how that's a pullback, Sheriff.
Well, actually, gold is about 4,400 right now, just under that. Today, gold is up about 0.9%, almost 1%. 1%. Silver is up today about 6.5%. Silver really is the mover. It's really.
So what do you have on silver? So you're saying gold's like 4,400. Yeah. I had 4,550 about. So you got to look at spot and it fluctuates and all that kind of stuff. But the point is it's way up. And what's silver at?
Right now about 77. Was it 77? Let's price of silver today. I just looked at it during the commercial and I forgot. 75.14 today, and it's up 6.6%. Where gold is only up 1. Platinum and palladium are moving better than gold also. But silver really is the mover. The point, though, is yesterday they both took a bath. They both went down exponentially.
Yeah, but let's talk about this for a second, because when you say they took a bath, yes, they took a bath from the all-time highs. Let's be clear.
Right.
But they're still way above where it's been for literally decades.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's expected. I mean, I followed the gold and silver market for about 30 years, maybe 35 years. I used to work for a Howard Ruff company that worked in gold and silver, and I was and diamonds. And I was the security guard to take all of that to the post office to send them to customers and clients all over the country. And so I got very into it. I really got into gold and silver. And he suggested gold and silver instead of the stock market, a great deal. If everybody would have listened to him back then, when I was first working them, I was part-time because I was a full-time cop at the time. But if everybody had put in back then $5,000 into gold and silver, half in gold and half in silver, you would be very wealthy today, because back then it was about gold was like $300 an ounce. That's 1,000% increase where it is today. More than that, actually. Yeah. And then silver, the same thing. Silver was like $12 an ounce.
When I bought my first silver round as a teeny kid, it was like $2.50.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and junk
so think about it, folks. Anyways, all I'm telling you is the headlines are saying silver and gold are down, but I'm just saying it's funny. They say after sharp gains, it's down compared to the all-time highs. I get it, but it's not really down. When you have to pay $4,500 for an ounce of gold that used to cost $20, Sheriff, a $20 gold piece, right? It was an ounce of gold. So $20 before we decided to go to fake money. And now it's $4,500. Silver used to be 1 ounce was $1. Now you got to pay literally $75 for that thing, right?
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Well, but you want to talk about up. Let's put this into perspective. What silver has done in just a little bit over a month. Okay, so I was in Utah the day before Thanksgiving, and my son-in-law Jordan is actually doing a little coin collection. So I told him I thought I had a pretty good silver coin that he probably wanted. Well, he paid me for it. And that day, silver was $51. The day before Thanksgiving, silver was $51. And today, you just said it's about 75. It's actually a little bit more than that, but let's say 75. That's let's see, 50% increase in 1 month. 50% increase in 1 month. Tell me an investment you can do something like that in. There's
Yeah, but
very,
let's
very
let's
few
really put
investments.
it to plain English, though. I understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree. But from a fundamental reality is, if silver's $75, it means that the dollar in the
Of
last
course.
month has tanked. That's
Yeah,
what's
of
really
course.
happened, because silver and gold really haven't changed, right?
Yeah, that's the theory, and I think it's gone a little bit more though than the normal inflation and the normal hit that the dollar takes. I think it's doing even more than that. And what I saw on that I've actually said for a long time, because silver was very stagnant and way below its actual value for a
Amen.
long time, for years.
In other words, it
And
was even way more out of whack than gold. It was suppressed further,
right,
is the point.
yes, it was suppressed. And so then the other theory with that, besides just the normal uh, uh, tanking of the dollar, which is obvious has happened over the last 200 years, 150 maybe. But this is the thing is that they compared it to a coil, and that it just like a rubber coil, it just gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and then finally it breaks loose and springs forward. That's what's
That's
happening
right.
to silver, besides just the dollar problem.
I agree. And I'll take a quick example to make the point, too. If you think of silver, it used to be 1 ounce of silver was $1.
Hmm.
Now you got to times it by 75. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Because it's $75. Okay. Now think about that comparison, and now take a $20 gold piece times 75. You get $1,500. Well, it's triple that. So gold has gone up literally like triple what silver has gone up. Silver still has room to run, if you will, compared to gold. I think the
Right.
truth is gold will stay where it's at, and silver will probably continue to gain on this. You'll see 100-ounce silver if it keeps up pretty soon. However, they're trying to work on quantitative easing and manipulations. Donald Trump talking about a massive tax break coming up in 2026 where people will get back a bunch of money in their hands. What Trump doesn't realize is that will temporarily feel good like a sugar high, but eventually that will have disastrous results if it doesn't continue. He also wants to work on a huge building plan to build homes, and he wants to basically tank the price of homes. So there's a lot of interesting twists happening in the economy. And what happens is when you have that economy uncertainty, with tariff uncertainty, economy uncertainty, tax uncertainty, and you mix that with concerns about war around the world, that's what's making honest money go on a run, if you will, because people are saying, hey, I need safe haven from all this. Now China is saying, hey, Russia's saying they'll back Taiwan's play for, let me start over. Russia says they'll back China's play for Taiwan.
Yeah.
We've got Donald Trump going crazy in Venezuela. Whether it's justified or not is debatable. I think the point is right, but the way he's going about it is of concern to me. You've got the battle between Benjamin Netanyahu and whoever at Hamas going on. You've got the, Russia-Ukraine issue going on. We've got so many hot spots. One of them I pray doesn't, but I'm predicting will eventually bust loose. You can't be on the brink on so many fronts and not eventually have something spill over, Sheriff.
Yeah, and on one hand, Trump has done a great job getting other wars started or stopped, and now he's part of creating one in Venezuela and perhaps now Colombia. And so you have to question that a little bit. But at the same time, I'm glad that finally somebody is doing something about the drug war and the proliferation of drugs and fentanyl that mostly come into the United States. The America is a very drug addicted
No
country.
question. And we really need to lean on Mexico big time, in my opinion, because that's the corridor in which we got to watch the most, and we're not even really talking about it much, right?
No, and we're not leaning on Mexico, and that's where most of the drugs come into America. China sends the fentanyl to Mexico, and the cartels there bring them into the United States. And because of the Biden administration and the Democrats, we now have the cartels setting up shop as never before. It's historic. It's horrible. It's a destruction of our country because the cartels and international terrorists, Hamas, ISIS, Al Qaeda, they're all here in the country. They've all set up shop here. They're doing a lot of their human trafficking to and from the United States. And the drug proliferation is going and going. America, United States, has 4% of the world's population, and we use 60% of the world's drugs, illicit drugs. So we've got a huge problem. These are the most evil people on the face of the planet that are bringing these drugs into our country. And I am glad that Trump is taking action against them. I am not glad that he doesn't have constitutional approval by the Congress. But when I weigh the two evils, I say the lesser of the two evils is what he is doing.
And your point is we teach to the ideal, Sheriff, and we want to do it constitutionally, but we do live in the real. And if you can't obtain the ideal like you need to, at some point, what do? You live in the real. And so these actions are important. I think what we need to do is get Maricopa County, Arizona Sheriff Jerry Sheridan on with us here pretty soon and have him give us an update on how it looked when he started and how things are changing and the gains we're making on that, because that's critical in America, to say the least. Ladies and gentlemen, gold and silver, they claim a pullback. I don't know what that even means. When you go to all-time highs and then you pull back to way more expensive than it was a year ago, I have a hard time believing that it's down, right? Just saying. All right, they claim he doesn't have any faith. We'll talk about that coming up in seconds. I'm Sam Bushman with Sheriff Mack at CSPAOA.org. You're watching Liberty RoundTable Live. All right, it's Sam Bushman and the Good Sheriff, ladies and gentlemen. CSPAOA.org. Become a member today. Check out our incredible event coming up in Washington State, January 9th and 10th, 2026. Couple of days, we'll be there. Would love to see you join us. All right, our buddy Joe Kovacs, well-known reporter over at WorldNet Daily, WND.com, quote, he does not have any faith. That's Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about Donald Trump, saying that Trump is not a, quote, true Christian. The White House fires back and says, we don't have time for her petty bitterness. Sheriff, what do you say to this? I don't like the, what do you want to call it, internal conflicts. I'm done with this.
Well, I've met her before. It was at Mike Lindell's deal when we had 10 sheriffs. We brought 10 sheriffs there for his press conference and rally.
Yeah.
And she was there. And this is what I have a problem with her. She's very critical about the president once they get into disagreements. And then all of a sudden, he's not a Christian. She was 100% with Trump, out there in the country, totally applauding him, lauding his stance, lauding who he was, standing behind him, defending him. And then they get a little disagreement, and she took it to the next level, and he didn't. He just said, it's too bad that she's gone. We wish her well, Usually he's the type to hit back, and he's not doing it this time, and I applaud him for that, because usually his MO is whoever takes a slap at him, he slugs them back 2 or 3 times.
Yes.
So I appreciate his attitude there, but I really am very disappointed in her. Look, if he was this kind of a person, you knew it before, but you stood by him the whole way. If you knew this before, you should have been backing off and kept your distance. So I don't trust her on this. In fact, I don't trust her because you don't get to play both sides just because, oh, now you're a little bit offended. So no, I'm not buying it, and I'm not buying her.
And I don't have a problem with the principle that you're pointing to, or that she's pointing to, when she says, hey, it's all about Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica. And Erica said, I forgive who murdered my husband. And then Trump got up and said, I hate my enemy. And so she's using that to say, hey, he's not a Christian. Christians don't hate. Now, I agree with her general point that, we shouldn't go around hating people. We should love our enemies. Okay, I agree with that. But the same principle applies to Greene, too, where we would say this. Is it really appropriate to run around and say someone's not a Christian? I'm going to judge your heart and say you're not a Christian. Maybe Donald Trump does hate his enemies, and maybe that's something as a Christian he's trying to work on. And when something heinous happens, hey, he's lived a life, he's almost 80 years old, so, 60 plus more years maybe not being a Christian, and then he changes. It's hard to repent. It's hard to get your mind and heart, in the talk radio business and in talk TV and everything else. Hey, people have made a living out of attacking one another, and I think it needs to stop. I agree, but is it really appropriate to call out somebody and say, hey, you're not a Christian? Sheriff Mack, you're not a Christian. As if I am by saying that? I don't get it, really.
Well, people say that about you and me all the time.
Yeah,
that we're not Christians, that our church is not a Christian church. And
I have a simple response to anybody who says, whether Donald's a Christian or I'm a Christian or you're a Christian, or, I hope my actions loudly proclaim who I am. Sheriff?
Same with me. And I hope that I do conduct myself in a Christian manner. And I've claimed to be a Christian for a long time, for my entire life. But there are churches out there who totally disagree with anyone that belongs to our church. And they say our church is not a Christian church. Some of them even say that our church is a cult. And
even though it is named the Church of Jesus Christ.
Yeah. James Carville actually defended our church once and said that. He said,
good for James.
Their name, the name of their church has Jesus Christ in it, So it's
but my point isn't to call out Greene over this and attack Greene. My point is for Trump and Greene and everyone. I think we ought to follow the admonition to, a soft answer turneth away wrath.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty good when Marjorie Taylor Greene says Trump's not a true Christian. He basically says, hey, we don't have time for her petty, behavior. Let's just move on.
He's right.
That's for Trump. That's a pretty mild response. And I got to give credit there. And I will say that I don't think anybody has any business running around deciding who's a Christian and not, as if we can judge their hearts. Let's leave that to the Supreme Judge, shall we? That would be my opinion. And I don't mean to attack anybody, but don't we belong there? Leave it to the Supreme Judge to decide if Trump is a Christian or not, right?
Of course. Judge not that you be not judged. And so, but my point is this. What does it really mean to love your enemy? Does it mean to side with them?
Not necessarily.
Join them in their unholy crusades? Of course
certainly not.
We'll keep fighting. We'll keep fighting our enemy. But in a Christian sense, we wish them well, and we wish that they would repent, and we wish that they would see the truth, and that they would stand in correct and holy places. But I am going to oppose them, and I'm going to expose the evil that they do and that the evil that they support. I will continue to expose that, and I will stand against it. You can read over and over and over in the Bible where people stand against their evil enemies.
And we also know from the Bible that there was a war in heaven started between the followers of God and Christ,
of course,
and those who chose another path. And that war is still here on the earth too. So
it continues today.
I think Trump's language should be tamed down when he runs around as the president of the United States and says, I hate my enemy. I'm not going there with that language. I'm also not going to judge him and say he's not Christian. I think a lot of times when we do feel harmed and hurt, it's easy to lash out. We're all part of the natural man. The greater cause is to say we forgive, and I support that, but that doesn't mean that you have to get there in an instant to be a Christian either, right?
Yeah, and he's fighting some of the most evil people in the world, and he's killing, literally, Trump is killing these people on those boats. He's authorized it. His Department of Defense person, Hegseth, is in charge of that, and they're doing it, and they're killing evil people. And for the most part, I agree with it. I think that there has to be a line drawn sooner or later where we defend the innocent people that these people are destroying and killing and torturing and human traffickers.
Well,
Take-
the naive idea is that there's no threats out there, right? That everybody just wants to be our
Yeah.
buddy. That isn't true at all.
Yeah, that's ridiculous because they literally steal children at the ages of 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and sell them into sex slave trade markets. And
Yes,
this is
it's
such an
heinous.
evil. And
And,
we're not,
so it's hard not to hate that and hate those
course.
behaviors. And it's tough to kind of separate that in people's mind. But here's the biggest point that I want to make. He does not have any faith. I don't think we should ever be saying somebody else doesn't have any faith.
no one on the planet has the right to say that to another human.
Anyway, that is the point. But my point really is we've got more fractures in our own team
Yeah.
than we need. And we've got to start to take a step back and say, do we got to fight? I mean, why would Greene be attacking, for example, Trump as if, some of these other people on the other side of the aisle or wherever else, we don't need to really worry about them? See, our side seems to eat their own. And it's a sad tale to tell, and I pray it stops. That's why my whole campaign for civility, right?
Yeah, and she's feeling betrayed and she's feeling hurt, and her political career is in shambles, and she's wanting to blame somebody else. And I understand her feelings, but attacking her the way she is, attacking the president the way she is not the answer. She should humble herself and just say, you know what, he's done a lot of good for the country. And I hope and pray for him and his continued success, and go on with her life.
Well, and if she really has a beef with issues that are happening, don't attack Trump, say he doesn't have any faith, he's not a true Christian. Why don't you just explain why you believe his views are wrong on certain things? So I'll give you the example. I'm not attacking Trump. I'm grateful we're stopping the drug trade and the sex trafficking, 100%. I do have a little bit of criticism that I think we need to follow the Constitution, though, and I know right now he's leaving Congress out of it. Now, a lot of that I believe is congressional fault, and I don't explain it to attack Trump. I explain it to teach to the ideal, and then say we live in the real and we must do what we must do. Congress, I hope, Mike Johnson and company in Congress comes to the table and says we do have a massive threat that we've got to take care of. So I'm teaching to the ideal, but I'm also acknowledging that we live in the real. And so if you want to attack something, do it based on principle. And don't attack, but hey, explain why we have a difference of opinion to help educate and inform people. There's nothing wrong with that if it's done correctly. Alex Jones attacking as well, which I found interesting. Alex Jones now accuses Candace Owens of being a globalist agent and a psyop involved deep state character. He attacked her in a video on X. Yeah, Jones criticized Owens after she interviewed Mitch Snow. We'll talk about all the details in seconds. I'm with a good sheriff, Sheriff Richard Mack, CSPAOA.org. Check out our event on January 9th and 10th coming up in a few days. It's all available at CSPAOA.org. Alex Jones accuses Candace Owens of being a global deep state actor on a video on X. Jones criticized Owens after she interviewed a guy by the name of Mitch Snow, who said leaders of Turning Point were involved in the killing of Charlie Kirk. In his video, Jones dismisses Snow as a, quote, con man, and accused Owens of complicit behavior in spreading this falsehood. Owens responded to Jones on Sunday and said, hey, I've been off the air for 8 days. And she said, I welcome factual scrutiny, contrasting it with what she described as a sensationalist approach by others. Jones threatened to expose Owens' husband, George Farmer. Sheriff, I don't even know what this is all about, but I wish the attacks would stop. I went to the TPUSA event, and you had Ben, what's that guy's name?
Ben.
Oh, Shapiro. Yeah, thank you. Ben Shapiro, who criticized everybody and their dog on the stage, and then several people fired back. And, then the mainstream press, liberal elites are going, oh, yeah, look, TPUSA is melting down. All I can tell you is, when are we going to stop, Sheriff? Look, I don't know who Owens' husband, George Farmer, is. I don't know how Jones would expose him. But I look at Alex Jones, and this guy's really going to start saying that. When after the Sandy Hook, we found out that he basically said, hey, I'm kind of a clown in the media, and I do all this for hyperbole, and I do, it turned out that he did all that for money, and then he's going to criticize Candace Owens. And all I'm telling you is I don't understand what we're doing in our own camps. The conservatives, there's different groups. You got the kind of the George Bush conservatives, which claim conservatism, but they're war hawks. You've got the, Sam Bushman and Sheriff Richard Mack conservatives, constitutional conservatives. You've got the, whatever. All I'm telling you is we're starting to see so many fractures within our own people. I think it's a huge mistake. Now, Candace Owens has been going off with some very salacious claims, which I'm not comfortable with. But at the same time, I just want evidence and truth. And right now, we don't have a lot of evidence and truth. We have a lot of allegations going around. What do you mean you're going to threaten to expose her husband?
Yeah.
I mean, are you holding back and partnering with this if you know something? I mean, all I'm saying is it's very strange, Sheriff.
It is. And that's kind of like what we were talking about with Marjorie Greene. If you knew this stuff beforehand, why didn't you talk about it then? And I'll say that to Alex, who I just left him a message yesterday, told him I wanted to be on his show, and I do. I was on Stu Peters just a couple of weeks ago. I was on with him. We disagreed on a lot, but we're still friends and we still associate. And I think Stu Peters is a good person, and I think he's trying sincerely to do the right thing. Even though I disagree with some of the stuff he's doing, I don't think he's a liar, and I don't think he's a bad person. And that's where the Candace Owens thing has gotten too far. I believe she's a good person, and I don't believe she's an agent. And how many times have we said that about people in the freedom movement? It's been said. Oh, yeah,
Sam Bushman's a PSYOP agent. He's this and that. And,
yeah.
You find out there's just no proof of those allegations, and details are twisted and everything else.
It's been said about me that I'm one. And I find that so absolutely remarkable and astonishing that somebody would say that about me. Do I have money? Do I have a big home? What? Why would I do that? And then get on how many shows do I do a month? 30, 50 shows a month, and say we've got to fight those who are destroying our Constitution. Anyone who's outside our Constitution is an enemy to America. I will say that, and I have said it. And I said that the greatest threat to America is our own federal government. I'm not pulling back from that either, because I have proof behind that. Look where our federal government is taking us, to the bullies of the IRS, to the extreme catastrophic debt that our politicians have caused us, not going after real criminals. Still, we don't have anybody answering to what they did in just the Obama administration and the Biden administration that was destroying our country and bringing in the enemies, and setting the enemies up in our country. And yet no one is answering.
I agree.
To that.
But here's what I would say, Sheriff. If you're going to make an allegation, we need to double down and get the receipts. So I don't want to hear something from Alex Jones that says this: hey, I'm going to threaten to expose your husband, George Farmer.
We'll do it.
I don't like those idle threats. Either do it or shut up.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the Trump administration. If they've got all these scandals, every day I hear about a new scandal. Every day I hear, oh, Joe Biden did this and Joe Biden spent that and Joe Biden. Hey, man, if Joe Biden's a criminal, then file the evidence, get your investigation complete ASAP, and lodge the complaint or the legal brief or the indictment or the whatever it needs to be. Let's just go. I'm sick of hearing about, oh, Candace Owens is the bad person. At least she's saying, hey, I don't believe the official government story, and I'm digging and doing my best to get answers. Now, I don't agree with everything she says and does, but at least she's trying to get answers. Everybody else wants to criticize her for trying to get answers. Hey, what have they done to try to get answers?
Yeah, I mean,
I just find it fascinating. And I'm not here just to jump into Candace Owens' camp and betray everybody else. I'm just saying, when can we back off and say, hey, if you believe that there was some involvement from, TPUSA officials, then I say you can talk about it. but bring forth the evidence. Otherwise, you probably shouldn't be making those allegations. Same thing with Alex Jones. If you've got goods on George Farmer, Candace's husband, then bring it to the table or quit talking about it. But don't just do all these threats. I'm going to out you, and I'm going to this, and you're going to out me, and I'm going to... What good are we doing to our camp when we do all that?
Right. I totally agree with you. And a lot of it is speculation. Look, I like Alex Jones, and so do you. And
Sure, of course I do.
We've had our
He does a lot of good.
Yeah, and we've had our differences with him. But at the same time, we all need to verify the information we're talking about and quit attacking each other and just say, hey, Candace, I disagree with you saying that, but you have every right to say it. And look,
and I'll defend your right to say it.
Yeah. And there's a lot of suspicious things about what happened and how Charlie Kirk was killed. A lot of suspicious. You and I have talked about it. She's
Agreed,
actually
100%.
taking it to the next level. And if she wants to, more power to her.
Well, and look at Alex Jones. Even though I'm disagreeing that he should, talk about exposing somebody, put up or shut up, he can say the things he says, and I support his right to say it. I can say the things, even Ben Shapiro. I disagreed with him on that stage personally, but he has every right to say what he thinks too.
Yeah, of course he does. And does everybody realize in the media that he's actually Jewish, and nobody's against him, and TPUSA allowed him a lot of time and a star spot on the stage. And, I thought we were all racist. I thought, where's the ADL attacking everyone for supporting this Jewish commentator? Okay. I totally respect him. I don't care what religion he is or what his nationality is. I could care less. I could not care less. Okay. But you're still called a racist. I'm still called a racist. And why do these people get to spread the lies about us?
Well, and then the attacks on Tucker Carlson, I'm having a problem with. The attacks on everybody. I mean, Tucker Carlson interviewed Nick Fuentes, and they say Nick is a super racist, and look at his comments, and how dare him. Hey, all Tucker was saying is, look, this guy should be able to have a chance to speak for himself and make his own case and let the American people decide what they think. Isn't that fair to everybody?
Yeah, and some people that you and I know are white supremacists. You and I are not white supremacists. But I still want to hear how they love their neighbor and they love the different races, but they claim that the white race is superior. And
which I disagree with.
So do I. But they have a right to say that without being mauled or picked on, or say you disagree with them. And you and I have. But yet they throw us in with the white supremacy.
Well, and here's the question: just because we disagree on the white issue, that doesn't mean they're evil people. And I can say they're not Christian and they're haters and they're evil and they should, belong at the bottom of the ocean with whale droppings. Which is worse, the guy that believes he's supreme because he's white, or the person that believes in abortion, wholesale murder? Which person is worse to talk to? Well, I'm willing to talk to both of them.
Well, what's worse, making false accusations against somebody like you and me who've never been racist in our lives. And as a matter of fact, you wouldn't know a race or a black person or a brown person if they were to hit you in the head.
Well, if you want to know the facts, I don't even know really if I'm a white person.
No, you don't.
How would I know?
You could ask your wife, but she might be lying to you.
I mean, everybody could lie to me. They could be lying to me my whole 60-year life and telling me, and I know that's absurd on one hand. On the other hand, my point is that you can't know. And if I talk to somebody, here's the next idea. If I talk to somebody, I won't know.
No, you won't. And
they tell me Candace Owens is black, right?
Yeah. Is her husband white though? I don't know that. I don't even know that. And I don't
even know anything about her husband.
I don't either. Never knew what his name. I didn't even know she was married.
All right. Anyway, Jones threatened to expose her husband, George Farmer. I don't know much about George Farmer. I'd have to look and find out about the guy. But Alex, if you've got it, truth tell, baby. That's all I'm saying. All right. I want to talk about the 2028 elections coming up, ladies and gentlemen. there's people staking out some very interesting details, in my opinion, to which I'm entitled way too early. We'll talk about it. CSPAOA.org. Become a member today. LovingLiberty.net is our syndicated radio and TV
I want to
network.
talk why I'm going to Washington.
We'll do it all in seconds. You're watching Liberty Roundtable Live. God save the Republic of the United States of America.